Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. I am your host, Michael Kravetz, and we got a jam-packed show today, coming off the heels of Selection Sunday last night, and that's where we're going to start off today's show, talking about Pitt. It's been over a week now since I was last on doing the Sports Wrap, so going to talk a little bit now about the Big East Tournament. Pitt getting the 4th seed in this tournament. It was the 4th time that they have gotten the double bye, and once again, the double bye has not been kind to them. Thankfully, this is the last year in the Big East, so they won't have to deal with any double byes once they move to the ACC. But they were able to face the 5th seed, Syracuse, and Pitt beat Syracuse earlier in the season, beat them by 10 points at home. In that game, though, Syracuse was without their leading scorer, James Sutherland. And in this game, he dominated. Pitt just could not guard him on the perimeter. They tried switching up different defenders on him. They had Robinson on him at one point, Trey Ziegler, Cameron Wright, and even Lamar Patterson. And Sutherland was still dropping down shots even if they were contested. He ended up finishing 6 of 6 from behind 3-point line and finishing with 17 points. So it's safe to say that if he would have been in that lineup when Pitt played Syracuse early in the year, would have been probably a different outcome. Some other things that I saw in this game, the first half, Pitt did not play their game at all. They had trouble with the 2-3 zone, which is something they have always been able to do well against in the past 10 years against Syracuse. Like I said, they beat Syracuse 6 of the last 7 times. So, I mean, Syracuse probably came out with a chip on their shoulder, knowing that, hey, this team has owned us over the past couple years, so why don't we give them payback? And Pitt just couldn't get anything going, attacking the zone. They couldn't get the ball inside much. Adams only had 6 points. He was able to grab down a lot of rebounds, 7. But Taylor, Zana, I mean, there wasn't really a lot of aggressive maneuvers trying to get to the hoop, and Pitt was settling for contested 3-point shots, which they were not knocking down in the first half. And up at halftime, Syracuse had a 13-point lead, 40-27. And at that point, while I was watching the game, I was thinking to myself, I can't see Pitt coming back because this team isn't built to come back when they're down double digits. But surprisingly, in the second half, though, Pitt stood toe-and-toe with Syracuse. Syracuse would go on these little mini runs, but then Pitt would claw their way back. And it stayed, like a 5-point game, a 7-point game throughout. And to the very end, Syracuse was up 58-55 with under a few minutes to go. Patterson attempts a 3, misses it. Zana fights for the rebound, gets it, puts it back in, and gets fouled. So he has a chance to tie the game at 58 with a free throw if he makes it. Of course, though, Zana misses. Syracuse goes down, makes 2 free throws to put them up by 3. Under 30 seconds, Pitt has a chance to hold the ball for a final 3-point attempt to tie the game to send to overtime or go for a quick 2. They decide, they're dribbling it up, taking it down, going to probably try and hold it for the final 3. And James Robinson, who at times has had many lazy passes in the Big East during the regular season, throws it away. Michael Carter-Williams steals it, and they're forced to foul. Syracuse ends up holding on for the win, 62-59. Like I said in this game, I am a little more encouraged now that Pitt clawed their way back, had a chance to tie it, because if they would have played the way like they did in the first half and the second half, I really would have thought that Pitt doesn't have a chance of making any runs in the NCAA Tournament. But with the way they came back, I think shows that this team is gritty and tough enough that they're not going to get blown out by any team in the tournament. They're going to stay with them till the end. Some of the positives: Lamar Patterson a double-double, Trey Woodall a double-double. Woodall at 12 points, 10 assists, Patterson 14 points, 11 rebounds. The discouraging thing was that they could only get 6 points in the paint in the first half, 20 in the second half. So if they would have just attacked more, were aggressive early on in the first half, this outcome would have been a little different. Zana added 10 points. Of course, he had that huge missed free throw. James Robinson, 10.6 assists. But the one thing that was missing from this game was the bench points. They only had 7 in the game. They got nothing from Trey Ziegler, Dante Taylor, Cameron Wright. They need their bench to produce for them to have a chance to win games come tournament time. And the alarming thing was the perimeter defense, which has been a problem through this whole season. Problem once again against Syracuse. Syracuse shot 63% from three-point range. They only shot 47% from 2. So if you allow a team to shoot better from the three-point line rather than the inside the circle, you're not going to win many games. And once again, the free throw struggles. 58% as a team. They missed 8 free throws. They make at least 3 or 4, they win the game. That's something that they need to work on. Pitt teams have always had a tough time shooting free throws. It's always been an Achilles heel. I don't know what it is, but hopefully they can fix that because free throw shooting is key if you want to make a deep run in the tournament. Pitt did win the rebounding edge, though. It's one of the rare times they've won the rebounding edge and lost. They out-rebounded Syracuse 26-10 in the second half. The final rebounding edge was 40-28, so in the first half they didn't do a good job, and in the second half they shorted up. But it was a disappointing end. It was Pitt's last year in the Big East. I hope that they could have made a run to the finals like they did. Made it 7 times out of the last 8 years in a stretch. But once again, a double bye, 0 for 4 now. Thankfully, they'll be moving on to the ACC. And with that, the NCAA Tournament revealed the brackets yesterday on CBS. And surprising, a lot of people are surprised, Pitt ends up getting an 8 seed in the West region. A lot of people predicted Pitt to be a 6 seed, maybe a 5. It's baffling to me because they finished ahead of Syracuse in the Big East, and they beat Syracuse in the regular season. Syracuse gets a 4 seed. Granted, they did go to the championship game in the Big East tournament, but Pitt gets an 8 seed. Now, I know that you got to look at all the geographical reasons for putting teams in certain arenas, but Villanova is a 9, and then Pitt is an 8. I think Pitt is a much better team than Villanova. Notre Dame got the 7 in the same region, so I'm not sure exactly. Notre Dame finished behind Pitt. I know Notre Dame beat Pitt, but still would have thought that maybe Pitt could have gotten a 6 seed or 7. At 8, though, I am surprised. Second lowest seeding that Pitt has ever had under the Jamie Dixon era. They were a 9 seed back in 2005. But looking at the matchup, they're going to be taking on number 9 seeded Wichita State out of the Missouri Valley Conference. They finished second in that conference. Lost to Creighton in the Missouri Valley championship game. Wichita State is pretty much the mirror of the Pitt Panthers. Played 10 guys, got a lot of big, athletic forwards. Their leading scorer, Cleanthony Early, senior, 6'8". They also have Carl Hall, who's a big forward. They're going to rebound. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the nation, along with Pitt. Both teams at times struggle to score, so I expect this game to be physical. The refereeing is going to be a huge factor in this game. I think Pitt has the edge with the guards. I haven't seen a lot of Wichita State's guard play, but with Trey Woodall and then the emerging James Robinson, then you throw Trey Ziegler in there if he is productive off the bench. Pitt has the advantage right now, just with the guard factor and the experience with Woodall back there controlling the point guard position at times. And I think the key in this first round matchup will be Steven Adams. I think that he is the key for this. If Pitt makes a tournament run, he is the key. In the Syracuse game, there were times when he was aggressive, and it worked. There's also times, though, that where he comes up a little soft. When they throw the ball into him, seems like guys, they're holding on to the ball, forcing a jump ball, they're slapping it right out of his hands. He's not going up for dunks, he's not going up strong enough, he's trying to go for a layup, and that's just not going to cut it against these big, tall forwards slash centers. And this is prime time. I don't believe that Steven Adams right now is a one-and-done player. I think he's going to come back to Pitt. I think he needs to improve himself better on the offensive end of the ball. but he is good at shot blocking. He is definitely improved in his defensive side of the game. And I think going up against Cleanthony early, that'll be a big matchup. And then if Pitt were to beat Wichita State, more than likely they're going to get number 1 seeded Gonzaga in the round of 32. And when it comes to that, Kelly Olynyk, one of the best frontline players in the country, Wooden Award finalist. I think Steven Adams, and a lot of analysts have said that Steven Adams can guard Olynyk. He can match him athletically. It's just a matter of if Steven Adams, will he be able to score on Olynyk? So, and Gonzaga has small guards. They're a little fast, but I don't know if Gonzaga, they are a good team. I'm not going to question their toughness because the WCC, even though it's a down league, there's a lot of physical teams in the league. So that would be a great matchup for Pitt. And if you look at all the other regions, Pitt being an 8 seed, they would probably not advance past the round of 32 against the likes of Louisville, Kansas, or Indiana. So if they move past Wichita State to get Gonzaga, they're the best of the number 1 seeds. It's the best matchup for Pitt. So this could be the year. In previous years, Pitt has been a favorite most of the time to make it to the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8. They always seem to struggle. This year, they're not going to be a favorite. I expect them to be favored by a few points over Wichita State, but they'll probably be heavily favored to lose to Gonzaga. So I think this is going to be it could be a deep run for Pitt. I don't think, though, that I don't see them getting past Gonzaga, but I think it's very possible that they likely could, depending on how they play against Wichita State. And another thing is they're going to be traveling out to Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, to whether the high altitude will have anything to do with that, I don't think it will. It is one of the early games on Thursday, 1:40 p.m. start time. So at least Pitt's going to get there. They're going to start off playing early, playing one of the first games. So hopefully their stay there won't be short-lived. So definitely going to be looking forward to that matchup with the Shockers of Wichita State. And now we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins. Once again, their winning streak has continued. They're playing an incredible pace right now. The defense is stepping up. The Penguins have won 9 in a row. It started last Sunday with the win against the Islanders, a 6-1 blowout, a 3-2 come-from-behind victory over the Boston Bruins at Consol, another come-from-behind victory Thursday at Toronto at the Air Canada Centre, a 3-0 shutout of the New York Rangers at Consol Saturday, and yesterday a 2-1 win over the Bruins once again at Consol Energy Center. And the one thing to take away from this past week, the Penguins' ability to come back. They were scoring at a high rate, coming off the Islanders game, 6-1 blowout. The top scoring team right now in the NHL being the Penguins. And they're going up against a Boston team who was 17-3-3 at the time, one of the best defenses in the NHL, the fewest goals allowed so far in the season for the most games that they've been playing, third goals against average, and Boston really took the life out of the Consol Energy Center early on. They end up going up early, 2-0, and really, when I was watching this game with the third period about to begin, I was thinking to myself, the Penguins are getting whacked pretty much in this game. It might be good for their psyche to know, okay, there are other teams out there that are better than them. But luckily for the Penguins, once again, they find a way to score and come back. It was about 7 minutes left in the third period. Chris Kunitz, off a nice one-timer pass from Chris Letang, puts it behind Anton Hudobin, who was in net for Tuukka Rask, makes the score 2-1. And less than a minute later, Brandon Sutter, a nice give-and-go goal from Bo Bennett, ties up the score at 2-2. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, they're coming back, this game's going to go to overtime. Well, with less than 2.5 minutes to go, Sutter intercepting a pass, takes the shot over the left glove of Hudobin, gives the Penguins a 3-2 lead. They hold on for the win. So the ability to come back, which is something you didn't really see from this Penguins team up to this point, is something that'll give you more confidence in the fact that this team can make it to another Stanley Cup final. 3 goals in the last 7 minutes. Unbelievable. Chris Kunitz once again chipping in. 43% shooting percentage when the Penguins, during this 10-game span up to this point. Sutter, 2 goals on 3 shots. He came up huge. And it was, watching the game, it was just a matter of time, I think, for the Penguins. They didn't get frustrated. They outshot the Bruins by 18 for the final tally, 34-16. They were 0 for 4 on the power play. Nothing was working, but they stayed to their game, got to the net. The first line, Kunitz getting the job, getting it started, and then Sutter adding his way, really showing that he can score and he can fill in for Jordan Staal, who the Penguins still miss, but Sutter is making a lot of people forget Staal was even here. So it was a great win for the Penguins. And then they followed that up with a Thursday game against the Maple Leafs, where the last time the Penguins were in Toronto, it was really a fast-paced game, energetic. The Maple Leafs gave the Penguins all they had, and in this game, Toronto, nothing happened in the first period. Toronto gets a goal midway through the second, goes up 1-0, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, Penguins are down once again, they're not going to get frustrated. Late in the third period, none other than the first line once again, this time Pascal Dupuis, a nice backhanded pass from Sidney Crosby. I don't even know how he got the puck to Dupuis. I don't even know how he saw him. Dupuis put it right in the net. Penguins tied up at 1, and then 5 minutes later, Dupuis open in the slot, puts it right past Ben Scrivens, another backup in net, to give the Penguins a 2-1 lead, and then Craig Adams adds an empty net goal. Penguins take it 3-1. Once again, comeback. And the amazing thing is that even though they're not converting much on the power play in recent games, they were 0 for 3 in this one, they're still able to score even strength goals. And early on in the season, Penguins were scoring most of their goals on the power play, but now it seems like more of the goals are coming from even strength. So that's a very good sign, because when you have some success on the power play, which the Penguins regularly do, and then you're getting it from even strength as well, that's a good 1-2 combination for your team moving forward, getting into the playoffs. And so they followed that up with a Saturday home game against the New York Rangers, who were supposed to be right there with the Penguins near the top of the division, but they have struggled, dropping now to 4th place in the Atlantic Division. So they really needed this game, and from the start, the Penguins dominated. Bo Bennett getting his 2nd goal of his young career, a minute 30 into the game, with a nice shot past Lundqvist. I don't think any goalie could have stopped it. Rangers didn't even register a shot the first 10 minutes of the game. The Penguins added a 2nd goal early in the 3rd period with Tyler Kennedy showing up on the power play, and then they get a 3rd from none other than Pascal Dupuis, who has the score touch right now. It was a nice shutout. Marc-Andre Fleury's 23rd of his career. That's his franchise record for the Penguins. And he is now 23-12-7 against the Rangers. The best record against any team for Fleury. 4 shutouts now over New York. He just likes to play against them. So, definitely a great win for the Pens. It's just separating themselves more in the Atlantic Division. And then yesterday, I had the great enough chance to go to the game, to witness it, playing against Boston. A lot of people are saying this is the Eastern Conference Final preview, and Thomas Vokoun getting the start, and he played brilliantly. 31 of 32 shots stopped. Just missed a chance of getting his 50th shutout of his career. And in the game, Penguins got off on the board early, scoring first. Sidney Crosby, with assists from who else but the first line, Chris Kunitz, Pascal Dupuis. Boston answered with the Tyler Seguin goal, and then Joe Vitale, last minute of the period, a nice chip-in goal off a rebound from a Craig Adams shot right past Tuukka Rask. A perfect aim of a shot right at the upper top of the net, and that would be the final score, 2-1. second and third periods. Not a lot happened. It was a good defensive game, and I guess this proves that the Penguins, they got all that home ice jitters done with, and right now they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. They beat Montreal in a high-scoring game. They've beaten Boston twice. Safe to say right now that the Penguins are the best team in the Eastern Conference, and if the playoffs ended today, they'd have the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And one of the more astonishing things to note is that the Penguins are still winning these games. They've won 9 in a row now, and they're doing it without Evgeny Malkin. And that just goes to show that, okay, once he comes back, this team should be even better. And I know that people are saying, oh, well, you can't really say that, 'cause, when Crosby was injured, he came back. They still played well, but they weren't elevated to the next level. Well, if Malkin, he was already starting to get on a good scoring streak up to the point where he got injured. But if he comes back and he plays like the MVP that he was just a year ago, this team, I think, will be unstoppable. And there could be a collision course with the Chicago Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup final. And I must say that the defense has been top-notch ever since people were calling into all the radio stations saying they need a trade for, a big defenseman. They got to do something. They're allowing too many goals. Well, over the past 5 games, this Penguins defense has only allowed a total of 5 goals. And I think it starts one of the unsung heroes of this defense, Mark Eaton. When they signed him and brought him in, I think he has just added more veteran presence to this defense. The pairing with Chris Letang, the last time they were paired together, 2009, let's see, what happened in 2009? Oh yeah, that's right, the Penguins won the Stanley Cup. So, you have Eaton and Letang. Eaton he's not an offensive defenseman. Letang is. Eaton is a defensive specialist. They are both good at what they do. And when they are paired together, they are one of the top defensive pairings in the National Hockey League. And then you have Orpik and Martin paired together, and then sometimes it's either Niskanen in England or Niskanen and Dupré. This defense, I think, does not need a big enforcer now because they have shown that they can win these low-scoring games. And the only little niche that I saw in these past 5 games, teams are still kind of having some success from behind the net. And that's how Boston got their goal yesterday. It started behind the net. That's the only thing that they got to work on. But besides that, I think that this defense is set. I don't think they need to make a trade. And I don't think now they need to make a trade for a winger. People were really high on Jerome McGinley. Well, Bo Bennett has stepped in very nicely. He only has 2 goals, but I think he's working well alongside James Neal. And with Sutter bumped up to that line, with Malkin being out, I think they have built a nice, good chemistry set there. So I think that this team is set. I would not be surprised if they didn't make a move at the deadline, and I'd be happy if they didn't. Now, they may try and get a role player to be on the 3rd or 4th line. I was always thinking maybe Kennedy would be gone just because he hasn't done much, but he's come on the past few games, showing something that he still has some left in him. So, not sure yet, but Shiro likes to make moves at the deadline, so I'm sure he'll make a move here or there, but I don't expect a splash move. And the only thing, though, that would concern me, if they were to try to get a defenseman, that would only be because of the injury that Letang suffered in the game yesterday. I noticed that he left after the first period with a lower body injury, so hopefully he is not out for a while, because like I said, the Letang-Eaton pairing has just been phenomenal. It has been over the past, in 08 and 09, and it is again this year. So hopefully Letang is okay, and he'll be back out there for the game tomorrow night against Washington. And now we're going to switch it over to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the NFL. A free agent frenzy occurred last week. March 12th, Tuesday, 4 p.m. is when free agency started, and there were a lot of moves to follow. I first want to get into the moves that involve the Steelers. And not a lot of happy moves, I should say. It started off with Mike Wallace being signed by the Miami Dolphins. He signed I believe it was a 5-year deal worth $65 million. And I'm not saying that he's not worth that. I'm just thinking that it's too much. I think he's a one-trick pony, and he is. He runs the vertical deep route. He's got a lot of speed. $30 million of that is guaranteed. I hope he does well in Miami, but I don't think Miami's going to make the playoffs next year. They still have the Patriots in that division, and the Jets are still a competitive team. The Steelers also lost Rashard Mendenhall. The Cardinals signed Mendenhall to a one-year deal, and really, it was expected because Mendenhall had some issues with the team, off-the-field issues. We all remember the tweet with about Osama bin Laden not showing up for a game when he was inactive. Still didn't even bother to show up. A lot of people said that, he never lived up to his potential here. He played 4 years, had over 4,000 yards. He only had over 1,000 yards twice in 2 seasons while he was here. I'm not surprised that he's gone. Will he have success in Arizona, reuniting with Bruce Arians? Maybe, but I just think it was a good idea for him to leave because even though he was the best running back that they had on the roster, I just think you can't have him being on your team because he was a distraction and he was a problem. Willie Colon, much maligned, injured offensive guard over the past few years. He was released. He ended up being signed by the New York Jets. And by doing this, the Steelers freed up another $5.5 million, and they pushed $4.3 million of Colon's contract into dead money that will be a hit towards next year's cap. So I think it was no surprise that they were going to be releasing him. The Steelers also lost another starter in the form of cornerback Keenan Lewis. He was probably the best cornerback that the Steelers had last year, and seeing him go, that's going to be a big hit to this team. They did bring in William Gay, but Lewis was proving to be one of the top-notch cornerbacks in the league, and he was young. He's 26. So the Saints ended up signing him, got a big contract. I think he'll be good with them in the future. And some of the players that the Steelers were able to keep, and also new players that they've signed, they were able to keep long snapper Greg Warren, signed him to a one-year deal. He's been here his whole career. I think that was a good sign. He's been a reliable long snapper. And they also signed a backup quarterback in former St. LaSalle high school graduate, Bruce Garakowski, this will be his 5th team now. And I was a little surprised by the signing. I think this spells the end for Byron Leftwich. Not sure about Charlie Batch. They signed Garakowski to a 3-year deal. He's 30 years old, about 4,500 yards passing in his career, 21 touchdowns, 24 picks in 36 games. He's been with the Bengals, been with the Browns. That's one of the reasons why I think they signed him, just because he's familiar with the AFC North, and if Ben were to go down, they'd have faith in him that he could get the job done. I still think Batch should be the primary backup, but signing Gradkowski to the 3-year deal, I think that really guarantees him the number 2 spot. So whether the Steelers will draft a younger quarterback to fill in as the number 3 guy, or if they'll keep on Batch for another year, that remains to be seen. But an interesting signing to say the least, but definitely not a splash signing. And the Steelers also brought back a former player in Matt Spaeth. He is at the South Side today, expecting to sign a 2-year contract with the team. They needed to add more tight end depth, with Heath Miller likely to miss at least the first 4 games of the 2013 season. Spaeth was with Chicago the past 2 years. He was a good backup here. It's just going to provide more depth. I mean, these are 2 backup players, so the Steelers still have holes to fill on the starting side of the ball. Luckily, and this was a huge signing, they were able to retain Larry Foote for a multi-year contract. If they would have lost him, they would have been in deep trouble because they don't have a second middle linebacker to team up with Lawrence Timmons. It would have to be Stevenson Sylvester and I don't think he is ready there. And you don't know how Sean Spence is going to do coming off an injury. So it was really good that Larry Foote was signed, and because I think he is a vocal leader in the locker room on the defensive side of the ball. And they also bring back Plaxico Burress with a 1-year deal. Really surprised by that. Hopefully they use him a lot more often than they did when they brought him in November this past year. And they also signed David Johnson, who at times was lined up as fullback, and then that's also more depth at the tight end spot. They also tendered Isaac Redman, Jonathan Dwyer, and Steve McClendon. Dwyer has signed his tender, so he will be on the team, and McClendon has yet to sign, and same with Isaac Redman. And the Steelers also restructured Lamar Woodley's contract to save them some more cap space that clears about $4 million. So right now the Steelers have some space, but not a lot of space to make any, key free agent signings that will, help bolster their starting roster. So the way you're looking at this team right now, they lost a lot of players from an 8-8 team. Harrison, like we said, is gone. He has not signed yet with the team. This could be a bad year for the Steelers. They could end up being in last place in the AFC North because Cleveland got better, Cincinnati got better, and Baltimore is the defending Super Bowl champion. So this could be a down year for the Steelers. It could be a couple down years in a row for the Steelers. So the Steelers fans better be prepared because it could be a long season. Now, I'm not. There's a chance the Steelers could do a little better. Could be 9-7. Could sneak their way into the playoffs somehow. Because with a franchise quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger, you can never count the Steelers out. But they have lost too many important players at the skill positions, and they're gonna have to need to find a way to get more production out of the players they're going to be filling in for the likes of Keenan Lewis, Mike Wallace. And one of the interesting things that developed over last weekend is that Emmanuel Sanders, who was a restricted free agent, visited the New England Patriots, and there's rumors that he will sign an offer sheet from the Patriots. Now, since he is a restricted free agent, the Steelers can match anything that the Patriots offer him. But if the Patriots decide to front load their offer, that's going to put the Steelers in a bind. They're not going to be able to match it, and they're going to lose Sanders. And if they lose Sanders, the only 3 receivers that they're going to have on their depth chart right now, Antonio Brown, Jericho Cotchery, and Plaxico Burress. I am sorry, but that is not a good top 3 receiving core. Cotchery, I think, would be a nice number 4, Burress a number 5. They are going to need someone to be in the slot and a good number 2 alongside Antonio Brown. And I don't know what free agents out there would help them that much. So they're going to have to get a receiver early on in the draft, and hopefully it's a good one, because they're going to have to ask a lot from him. So that's going to be a problem for this team as well. And now I'm going to go over some of the top signings that caught my eye early in free agency. The Dolphins made a splash with the signing of Mike Wallace. They signed linebackers Philip Wheeler, Donnell Ellerbe. The Broncos got guard Luis Vasquez. The Browns stole Paul Kruger away from the Ravens. Some of the big releasings, the Bills released starting quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick after they gave him that huge contract. The Eagles released cornerback Nnamdi Asomugha. The Raiders released Darius Hayward-Bay and Michael Huff, 2 former first-round picks. And the Dolphins released Carlos Dansby. And the Cardinals released their former starting quarterback Kevin Kolb. The Chiefs released Matt Castle. Castle goes on to sign with the Vikings. And the Vikings also add former division rival receiver Greg Jennings. So a lot of switching divisions with a lot of players. And obviously the 2 big trades that started off before even free agency began. Anquan Bolden traded from the Ravens to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick. And then the Seahawks trading for Percy Harvin. And also they were able to sign Cliff Averill. A lot of NFC teams have bolstered their rosters. I think the NFC is going to be a much better team the NFC is going to have a lot more better teams than the AFC. And it just goes to show you with free agency what teams are willing to give out to these top-notch players. One of the biggest signings, though, during free agency, Wes Welker leaving New England, signing with the Denver Broncos. That instantly makes them the favorite in the AFC, Because now you got Peyton Manning, Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Wes Welker. You have that great defense. Broncos are the favorite in the AFC. And the Patriots, to make up for the Welker loss, they go out and sign Danny Amendola, who has been compared to Welker his whole career. So a nice addition to the Patriots. And some of the other ones just to note of, Reggie Bush signs with the Detroit Lions. He is now going to be their starter after a few good years in Miami. And also for the Steelers, they were able to sign Ramon Foster to a 3-year deal. So their offensive line will be set for next year. So a lot of big signings, a lot of big trades. And one of the more interesting things to note, one of the funny things to happen during this free agency period, Elvis Dumervil was expected to accept the contract that the Broncos offered him. But because his agent forgot to fax in the papers on time, he is now a free agent. That just goes to show you that they still go by the old way, faxing in papers. So now Elvis Dumervil is now on the market, and there's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in signing him. And now I wanted to get into some baseball talk. Spring training starting to get toward the finish line. It's been going on for a while now. They've added an extra week because of the World Baseball Classic. But the MLB will get underway. First season game, regular season game, will be March 31st. The Pirates opening day will be April 1st. And over this past week, some of the things to note, Jonathan Sanchez, he got another start against the Twins. The Pirates won that game. Probably his best start of the spring. Couple innings pitched, just allowed a few hits, few runs. Andrew McCutchen hit his first home run of the spring. And Gabby Sanchez continues his great spring with another home run. Jeff Locke got the next start against the Orioles. He pitched well. 3 1/3 innings pitched. He gave up 8 hits, but he struck out 3, only gave up a few runs. And James McDonald got the start Thursday. Is the deepest he's gone in the spring yet. 5 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts. So it was nice to see him go to the distance to kind of shore himself up to get him prepared for the regular season. And last Wednesday, the Pirates decided to trim their roster down. They sent 11 to sent them down, 10 to AAA, 1 to minor league camp. Jameson Taillon was sent to the minor league camp, and the other one sent to AAA. Outfielder Jerry Sands, pitchers Vic Black, Stormy Pimentel, Hunter Strickland, Duke Welker, Eric Candler, and then infielders Clint Robinson, Matt Haig, Anderson Hernandez, and outfielder Darren Ford, excuse me. And another bunch of moves were made. They sent Tony Sanchez and Andy Oliver down to AAA on Friday, and then I just heard today that they sent Garrett Cole back to minor league camp, not to AAA, but to minor league camp. So that indicates that he will not be in the starting rotation to start off the year. Little disappointed in that. So it's looking like that 5th spot to start the season will either go to Kyle McPherson, who in his last start on Thursday pitched pretty well, didn't give up any runs, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits. It's either going to go to him, Jeff Locke, or Jonathan Sanchez. And out of that 3, I would say right now McPherson has the inside track, then Locke, and then Sanchez would be 3rd. So I think that's going to be one of the more intriguing position battles here to watch the final 10, 12 days of spring training to see who's going to get that 5th spot in the rotation. And I also wanted to get back into the hockey real quick. The NHL realignment plan that I talked about a few weeks on the show was approved by the Board of Governors, and this is how it's going to shape up. You're going to have 4 divisions, 2 in the Eastern Conference, 2 in the Western Conference. In the Western Conference, they don't have the division names just yet. In First Division, which is Division A right now, you'll have the Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings, Phoenix Coyotes, San Jose Sharks, Vancouver Canucks. Division B, Chicago Blackhawks, Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, St. Louis Blues, and the Winnipeg Jets. And then over in the Eastern Conference, Division C, you got the Boston Bruins, the Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Buffalo Sabres, Florida Panthers, Ottawa Senators, Tampa Bay Lightning, And then finally in Division D, you'll have the Pittsburgh Penguins, Columbus Blue Jackets, Carolina Hurricanes, Washington Capitals, Philadelphia Flyers, New York Rangers, New York Islanders, and the New Jersey Devils. So the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets come from the Western Conference into the Eastern, and then Winnipeg goes to the Western. The top 3 teams in each division will make up 12 playoff teams. That will leave 4 spots, and these 4 spots will be the next 2 highest placed finishers in each conference based on points. So one division could have 5 teams into the playoffs, and the other division can only have 3. The division winner with the most points in the conference will face the final wild card, and then the division winner with the second most points will face the first wild card. Teams finishing second and third in each division will play in first round of the playoffs, and then the winners of each series will play for the berth in the conference championship series. So, in the way the regular season schedule will work, every team will play in every arena at least once, 29 games with the division, 21 games within the conference, and then 32 games against the non-conference. I think this is a great move by the NHL. It really narrows down traveling time for each of the teams. You look at each divisions, the little areas sectioned off on the map showing what the traveling is going to be like. It's all pretty well. The only thing I would say that doesn't match up properly is that in Division C, you have Florida and Tampa Bay in a division that they'll probably have to travel the most, going to places such as like Boston, Montreal, and Toronto. But other than that, I think this realignment works. It'll be interesting to see what they name the divisions. I'm sure they're not going to be able to find that out till midway through the summer. But I like the realignment. I think the Penguins division, I like it, being Columbus added in there, and then you have Washington, who's been a rival with them over the years, and then Carolina, you're going to see Jordan Stahl more often, and then keeping the Atlantic Division rivals there too as well. I think it's just a good fit for the Penguins, and it should be a good fit for hockey. But that'll do it, though, for today's episode. Got into a lot of stuff here. Next week is sure to be another packed-filled show. Going to talk about Pitt. Hopefully, Pitt will still be in the NCAA Tournament up to this point. Not sure yet. Talk about their game with Wichita State, and then if they advance, their game against Gonzaga. I'm going to talk about some other interesting things that would have happened in the NCAA Tournament, some of the other games, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of upsets, going to be a lot of close games. Going to get into the Penguins. Will they be able to keep their winning streak alive? Will they get close to the record? 17. They hold the record back in the 93 season. They're at 9 right now, so we'll see if they get any closer. Any more signings by the Steelers or any more releasings. It'll be interesting to see where James Harrison's going to end up. And also going to be talking more about Pirates baseball. By the time next Sunday, there's only going to be 1 week of spring training left. See what other players get sent down to minor league camp, and to see how far along, if there's going to be any solidified positions set, and then to see where they're starting rotations at. See from Clint Hurdle where he thinks the 5 guys are going to line up at in the rotation. So that'll do it, though, for this edition. Signing off on the Sports Wrap, you just listened to Michael Kravetz. Thank you.